Hi, Ken. Hope you're doing well. So I wanted to see your horse walk loose so I could see what he naturally does. And here he looks like he's doing a pretty well relaxed walk. It's 4 separate leg movements. So he's got a 4-beat gait and he's just reaching up into his front hoof print. So he doesn't have a lot of overreach, but looks like a very nice horse and very good leg separation. So what happens sometimes is when we ride them, if the saddle doesn't fit correctly, it will pinch their back and therefore they cannot move normally because it's causing them pain. They'll invert their back, tense up, and then tense up in the neck area as well. And then that will cause them to swing those legs more, which is more comfortable for them if the saddle's not fitting. So I always check with people when the horse is pacing under saddle, but it's walking naturally, a 4-beat gait, that you check the saddle fit. Make sure that you can get your hand under the front of the tree, which should be right here behind his shoulder blade. And then it feels snug, but not super tight, snug all the way back from the front to the back of the tree, which is about here. You also want to check to make sure it's not pushing down on their wither, that you can fit at least 3 fingers underneath the front of the saddle, which is the pommel, down to their wither, and that it's clearing their spine well. If you're unsure, I tell people if you have a bareback pad or you can ride bareback, get on and ride bareback. And if the horse doesn't pace, well, then you know it's the saddle fit. So that's one of the first things you want to check is just saddle fit, because no matter how many exercises you do and how good of a rider you are, if the saddle's pinching, they will never gait that well. So as you go to turn here, you want to look up a little bit higher. You want to use that right rein, but don't pull it back so far. You don't want to pull it down here to your, like below your buttocks. You want it up here. This is the top of your hip. That's where you're trying to keep a straight line as you do it. And then you want to pull with less rein. So the hard part, this gets him over bent. So you want to use a little less rein and more leg. So if he wouldn't turn, I would be leaning back, looking up higher, press that outside rein and leg against him until he gets the turn. And then once your horse turns, then go to your right rein and leg. But here you have a little bit too much rein and the horse is pivoting instead of making a circle. And then when you go the other way, you're trying to pull the rein back towards your hip to bend him. You'll see your upper body's forward. And again, you're not alone. Everybody tends to do this. So you want to lean back more, use your eyes more so the horse will understand where he's supposed to go. When we're staring at the dirt, they really don't get the idea where we want them to go. And that's a lot of times one of the big problems is us just looking down. So you just want to make those circles bigger, more like a 10-meter circle so he can walk around it more. But making circles with this horse is good. You can make, say 3 circles to the left and then see 3 circles to the right. Then you could make it into a figure 8 and go back and forth. That will help to separate that horse's legs, because even as he's walking slow, his legs are just a little bit close together. So I would like them just a little bit more separated, and then your gait will be much better. Here you are. He is step pacing. You're correct. Okay, so Ken, you're a very nice rider. You're looking up where you're going. Your hand placement is good. You almost have a straight line from the bit up to your elbow. I would just straighten your wrist a little bit, palm slightly in, kind of like you're imitating how his wither is with your hand. So it's kind of at a, instead of being straight up or straight down, you're kind of on an angle like this. But your eyes are good. You got your shoulders over your hips, your heels underneath you. So you're riding quite nicely. But this horse is tending to go towards a pace and a step pace. So to fix that, you want to establish your trail walk, which is just a slow walk first. If they cannot walk slow without pacing or step pacing, we're not going to get anywhere. So that's the start of their foundation, is that we get their slow walk good first. So if he doesn't walk slowly, because I didn't see any videos of that besides him being loose, then I would start with his walk and you could lunge him or you could ride him over it. And again, don't forget about that saddle fit to check that first. And then what I would do is put poles out, because the poles help the horse to separate its legs. It helps them to look down, which helps them to relax their necks and their neck and their back. And it also helps them to learn to pick their legs up instead of swinging their legs. So I would set up poles. I sent you a video of that already, but a pole here, a pole here, a pole here, and a pole here. So you can make it easy to lunge around it or just to walk the horse around it. Then I would work on getting a little bit better bend with him around the circle so he understands. And then I would, as you're going around the circle, you keep kind of pressing with your inside leg and half halting on your inside rein to hold the bend, but that also teaches the horse to drive up underneath them with their inside leg and to give to the bit. So all those things will help. After you make those circles and you've established the plain walk or the trail walk, I would work on leg yielding, and I have videos and articles on that if you don't know how to do it. So circles, leg yielding, serpentining, bringing the shoulders in, all these things will help to separate their legs, but it's called lateral movements. You want to know how to do those things, because once we take the poles away, you're going to have to half halt, rebalance your horse, and do some lateral movements to keep his legs separated. So right now, if he gaited well, his headset would be fine. So in the future, once he gaits well, it's okay if his head's up here, it's kind of neutral, but for now, we want to bring it down a lot more. Thinking getting the top of his head below the top of your saddle. So down here to help us to get that neck and back relaxed. So he'll pick his feet up more instead of swing them, and then do the lateral movements with that. So 5 minutes walking each direction, lots of walking, bending. And then once he can do those well, and that might take a couple of weeks, then I would start going for the flat walk, and I would start over the circle doing the same thing and just trying to go for faster speed, but keeping his head down and relaxed. Once he can do that well for 5 minutes each direction at least, then we can start moving up to his next gait. And with the spotted saddle horses, there's many different things they could get. He's going very lateral because he's step pacing, so we might be able to get a running walk. But otherwise, if he was still a little bit too much lateral, the saddle gait might be a little bit easier to get. But here he is, those legs are kind of swinging together, so we just got to get a little bit more separation, but that starts at the real slow walk. And it's not like he's going really fast there, but that is faster than a regular slow trail walk. So here you're coming across and he's still doing that step pace. So if you focus on the movement in the saddle, you'll see you're going a little bit sideways, but a little bit up and down as well. So that's a way to know he's doing a step pace, is you're getting all that movement in the saddle. So when he's doing just a regular walk, you'll either be still or moving forward and back. When you're doing a flat walk, same thing, you'll go forward and back, or it'll be completely smooth. And then with a running walk, same thing, forward and back or smooth. Each horse is different, so that's why I'm saying two things. When you do saddle gait, it will be smooth or a little wiggle back and forth. But the only thing that should make you go up and down is if the horse is foxtrotting, and your horse is definitely not foxtrotting. He's very lateral. Now, as you're going around, this is the importance of really making sure the horse understands everything and is really broke under saddle. He's cutting in, so you're pulling him out. You want to really teach this horse to leg yield well and move off your leg. So when you're cutting across and he's moving over, you want to push him over, because that will help to separate his legs. And his legs right here as he's going, we just got to get 1 or 2 seconds more separation and you'll have a smooth gait. But he's moving his legs too much together. You can kind of see how both legs are off the ground at the same time here. And again, his head's too high, so we want to bring that down below the saddle. With your upper body, you don't want to sit back any further, because that will make the horse more pacey. If anything, you want to be neutral, which you are, or you can try tilting your pelvis a little bit forward, and that might help also. This one, I think your trainer assistant is trying to get the horse to canter. When they're very pacey, the hard part is as they go faster, they just pace faster. When they pace faster, they're using their legs laterally, and when you're trying to get the canter is more a diagonal gait. So it's very hard for the horse to smoothly switch, especially as they're going faster, from a lateral gait to a diagonal gait. So what would be better to help this horse to understand the canter is to give it pre-cues. I always half halt, shift my weight to the outside, and then dig with my outside leg and hold it in until they get the canter. That will be its cues, but again, the horse doesn't know and won't understand those. So what I use is a pole or a jump, and I give those cues as well as my voice right before I get to the pole or the jump. And then going over the pole or the jump usually helps the horse to jump it, get in that leaping motion, and they'll get the canter much better. I like to stay in a round pen to start them, something that's maybe 50 or 60 feet, because the walls will support them. In a big round arena, every time they get to a turn, they'll usually cross canter because they lose their balance, and cross canter is more lateral, so it's more comfortable. So they'll switch back and forth. But if you have a round pen, that's where I would practice it. So as he's going, he's speeding him up, but he's just pacing, and then he's pacing faster. There he's scrambling with his legs, and then he finally gets it. So it will be much easier for the horse to understand and much less anxiety if you use a jump or a pole to help him to get it. But that's why he's kind of in and out of it and keeps losing his back end. The other thing I would do is make sure this horse can do it from the ground well in the round pen. And once he can canter well like that, then I use a lunge line, pull them off of the wall so they're about a foot off of the wall. They will fall apart again, but at least they'll have an idea. And then you keep practicing that way until they can hold that back lead. But always using a pole or a jump with a pacey horse until they understand. Also, the other benefit of doing it from the ground is you say the word canter before you ask them, and then the horse will start to get it. And once they start to get it, then when you're up there and right in front of the pole, you can say canter and then ask the horse to go. In time, they'll make the connection. But some horses are better, they pick it up faster, they're smarter, more balanced, and others are not, and it takes them longer. He's got the canter, but the horse looks a little anxious, and he's still very lateral in the canter. His legs aren't very separated. So you can see those legs on the right side kind of moving together. So it was better. He finally got it. You can teach it this way. It's just not as smooth, and the horse usually is more anxious when you're kind of running them into it, but he did get it. So don't get me wrong. But what I would do is once the horse got a couple of steps, I would just stop, rest the horse to make sure the horse really understands that was the right answer, and then to repeat over and over again in both directions. But I think if the horse has a smaller space, he'll learn his balance correctly, and it will take some time to get it, especially when they're pacey. But once the horse understands those cues, then when you're out on the trail, you can canter a step here, canter a step there, and over time it'll get better and better. But you don't really want to run them in it too much because, again, they'll start scrambling with their legs, they get unbalanced, and then a lot of them will get trippy. So I would change some of the things that you're doing. I'm going to send you exercises to do. Get that flat walk established first. Then get your flat walk, and then after that, the running walk or the saddle gait, or we could get both if you want. I think the horse has talent. I think you need to check the saddle fit and make sure the horse is comfortable. Do some more work from the ground over poles, as I had mentioned, and then do the work under saddle. And if you do it right, the horse should start getting better. In a week or two, it should be better, not worse. And then in a month, it won't be fixed, but in a month you should have a pretty good at least trail walk, and you might possibly have your flat walk at that point in time if you're doing it all correctly and in stages.